All right, Genesis 19, and go ahead and read 5 verses each, and we'll start with Sherry.
That evening, the two angels came to the entrance of the city of Sodom. Lot was sitting there, and when he saw them, he stood up to meet them. Then he welcomed them and bowed with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, come to my home to wash your feet and be my guests for the night. You may then get up early in the morning and be on your way again. Oh no, they replied, we'll just spend the night out here in the city square. But Lot insisted, so at last they went home with him. Lot prepared a feast for them, complete with fresh bread made without yeast, and they ate. But before they retired for the night, all the men of Sodom, young and old, came from all over the city and surrounded the house. They shouted to Lot, where are the men who came to spend the night with you? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them.
All right, Don and Elaine.
So Lot stepped outside to talk to them, shutting the door behind him. Please, my brothers, he begged, don't do such a wicked thing. Look, I have 2 virgin daughters. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do with them as you wish. But please leave these men alone, for they are my guests and are under my protection. Stand back, they shouted. This fellow came to town as an outsider, and now he's acting like our judge. We'll treat you far worse than those other men. And they lunged toward Lot to break down the door. But the 2 angels reached out, pulled Lot into the house, and bolted the door.
Then they blinded all the men, young and old, who were at the door of the house, so they gave up trying to get inside. Meanwhile, the angels questioned Lot. Do you have any other relatives here in the city? They asked. Get them out of this place, your sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone else, for we are about to destroy the city completely. The outcry against this place is so great it has reached the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot rushed out to tell his daughter's fiancés, quick, get out of the city. The Lord is about to destroy it. But the young men thought he was only joking. At dawn, the next morning, the angels came insistent. Hurry, they said to Lot, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Get out right now, or you'll be swept away in the destruction of the city.
All right, go ahead, Sherry.
When Lot still hesitated, the angel seized his hand and the hands of his wife and 2 daughters and rushed them to safety outside the city, for the Lord was merciful. When they were safely out of the city, one of the angels ordered, run for your lives and don't look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains or you will be swept away. Oh no, my lord, Lot begged. You have been so gracious to me and saved my life, and you have shown such great kindness, but I cannot go to the mountains. Disaster would catch up to me there, and I would soon die. See, there is a small village nearby. Please let me go there instead. Don't you see how small it is? Then my life will be saved.
All right, go ahead, Don and Elaine.
All right, the angel said, I will grant your request. I will not destroy the little village, but hurry, escape to it so I can do nothing until you arrive there. This explains why that village was called Zor, which means little place. Lot reached the village just as the sun was rising over the horizon. Then the Lord rained down fire and burning sulfur from the sky on Sodom and Gomorrah. He utterly destroyed them along with the other cities and villages of the plain, wiping out all the people and every bit of vegetation.
But Lot's wife looked back as she was following behind him, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Abraham got up early that morning and hurried out to the place where he had stood in the Lord's presence. He looked out across the plain towards Sodom and Gomorrah and watched as columns of smoke rose from the city like smoke from a furnace. But God had listened to Abraham's request and kept Lot safe, removing him from the disaster that engulfed the cities on the plain. Afterwards, Lot left Zoar because he was afraid of the people there, and he went to live in a cave in the mountains with his 2 daughters.
All right. Hi, Mom. Good evening. Go ahead and finish the chapter. We are in verse 31 right now.
Thirty-one. Is that
Yeah.
in 19? Chapter 19?
Yes, chapter 19, verse
Now
31.
Now the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come into us, as is the custom of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father." So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. It happened on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, "Indeed, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight also, and you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father." When they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. The firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the people of Ammon to this day.
All right.
Hmm.
Anything stand out in this chapter?
Verse after verse.
Oh my goodness.
It's pretty tough, isn't it?
Oh my
my
goodness, my goodness.
It's horrifying all the way through.
Yeah.
Hmm. For the daughter to offer his 2 virgin daughters to these
100 men.
these men, it was horrifying.
Mhm.
How could a father do that?
Yeah, you begin to see how sin really affects the mindset of people. And, when you think of just a lot of the craziness and the evil that's happening in our world today,
Yeah.
And I don't know, I know there are places in the world today where fathers offer their young daughters, 12, 13, for marriage to older men for money. And obviously there are also many people who offer their daughters to men either for money or for their own gratification. And so as far as what's happening in Sodom, it's happening today as well, where people offer just daughters or or sons,
Right.
people who look at their children as commodities, people who look at their wives as commodities. I know there's a point in even hearing or reading some of these things that I get sick to my stomach, and I'm like, man, I wonder what God feels. I know every time I either see a whole city, either through a view from the mountain or a view from the airplane, or just viewing all the lights in a city, that looks really pretty. It looks really pretty. You still wonder what kind of wickedness goes into our cities today. And I do think that that's the reason why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, was exactly this kind of thinking. who knows how many visitors went through there and just got lambasted,
Yeah.
you know. So I think just as it was back in Sodom or during the days of Noah, God will have to come and just step in and say enough is enough, because it's pretty horrifying.
But Lot was saved because of Abraham, right? Abraham.
Yes.
So when Lot's doing this, does he, I don't know, does he become a good guy, or is he, I mean, why? It doesn't seem like he was worth saving.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm with you.
Yeah, you know, I do think that everything is pretty complex. Whether Lot is worthy or not is one of the one thing or another. Obviously, this is also where we get the principle that even Ellen White brings up, that righteous people, because of God's protection for them, actually saves their communities. Which means that they're obviously, if you're a righteous person and there's angels protecting your home or anything like that, then the community is protected because the angels are there, because you're protected. And for Lot, it's very evident in the text that the biggest reason the angels came to him was because Abraham decided to ask for it. It was according to Abraham's request. And I do believe that many times when we pray for our loved ones, when we pray for the people that mean a lot to us, whether they're a good person or not, I do believe God says to Satan, nah, this person was requested for. One of my children requested for this people. And, you know, obviously that's not a forever thing. There comes a point where people's decisions will catch up to them. And I think eventually it caught up to Lot. But like you're saying, it's pretty complex. It's not very good or bad. It's just like there's so much bad into it that you almost you can almost say that God's mercy go out to people because his children asks for their protection or ask for their salvation in something.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things, go ahead.
What do you think about this daughters getting the father drunk? Now, how can someone get somebody drunk? If you don't open your mouth and drink it, I mean, he got himself drunk, didn't he?
I'm sure that doesn't mean they were forced. Obviously, they knew their dad's habits, you know, and so they decided, hey, why don't we give him something a little stronger, maybe something a little more, you know, who knows? Obviously, someday we'll get to know it, but I do think that it could very well be that the daughters were probably the ones who kept telling Dad, that's enough, you know, you don't need any more. And then one night they just said, no, we're just going to keep giving it to him. And like you said, I think it was Lot that decided, oh, why not? You know, what else is there to do in a cave?
Wow.
Man.
One of the things I wanted to bring out is the process of this whole thing, because Lot actually started out outside the city gate. He set up his tents outside of Sodom. And by the time this happened, he was already has a house in Sodom. Not only did he have a house, but his children also had houses in Sodom. There is that also is an important aspect of this story, because even Abraham never set up his home. He was always in a tent. He never had a house in Canaan. And that principle has been brought up even in the book of Hebrews, that people who are obedient to God don't ever make themselves comfortable in a place, because they know that's not their home. I forgot what text it is that basically brings that out, that, we're never home here on earth. This is not our permanent place. Therefore, everything is temporary. And so even though Abraham was richer than Lot, he still decided, no, I got to be in a tent, because I don't know when God is going to come and ask me to do something. Besides, he says, this land that I'm in is not for my comfort. It is for God to reveal himself to all the people here and to reveal his will. Lot, on the other hand, basically said, forget it. I'm moving in. Not only am I moving in, I'm going to make myself comfortable. The fact that he was on a gate when the angels came tells us that, because the gate is a place where all the popular people hang out, where all the leaders hang out. It seems to me that that little detail that was brought up by the author tells us that Lot knew everybody in Sodom. He could have ran for office. He could have ran for mayor. And he probably had so many business associates in Sodom. That is also why none of his kids wanted to leave. They were way too comfortable there. Besides, I love the fact that my translation said that his in-law said, no, they're joking. Or his kids even said, you're joking. You must have had a little too much to drink tonight, Father. And I do think that shows how Lot lived out his faith. What that tells him. Go ahead.
Is that why the two said that they didn't want to spend the night there, or that they were just going to spend the night in the city square then, because they didn't want to be in his house where he was comfortable?
It could be. I didn't understand why they said that. I don't know if they wanted to test Lot, or if there was a real reason, another reason for that. I think they also knew that going into Lot's house might have just, put him in a lot of danger. I'm not sure, because I do think that, if this angels knew what their mission was, I wonder if who it was that told them, look, you need to wait to tell them. Because what if, I would think that they should have told him right at the square, look, you need to get out. But they waited until, people were wanting to kill his daughters and kill them, basically, before they even made that decision. So I don't know whether they were waiting so that somehow Lot will have this revelation, like, what am I doing here? Why is this place my home? But again, a lot of that is guesses. I'm glad you brought that up. But I do think that it could very well be that one other reason would be, they're like, I don't want to go to your house for whatever reason. Yeah, I think it's also important to note that the two daughters, the Moabites, the son who named the guy Moab, the Moabites were Israel's biggest enemy when they came back to Canaan as a nation. And the Ammonites were also their biggest enemy. When we go to Exodus, and Deuteronomy, when we, oh, I'm sorry, actually First Samuel all the way to Second Chronicles, you will see that most of their wars were against the Moabites and the Ammonites. And again, which begs the question that you asked, Sherry, which is, was Lot worth saving? If God knew that saving this man would create, Israel's biggest enemies, then why would he? And I know for me, my only answer for that was Lucifer worth creating? Were any of the angels worth creating? And we seem to have a God who says, I know the future. I know exactly what's going to happen. But if I decide to wipe out all of evil before they even started, I think there's an effect to that that's also not going to be good. And I think when we get to heaven, God will explain that to us fully. But for now, you just kind of like, yeah, surely you shouldn't have gone to Sodom. You should just wait till they slept and, But I do believe that even for Abraham, after all of this thing, none of this was said, but I do believe that Abraham thanked God profusely. He says, thank you. I know you didn't have to do it, but I love this boy. He's an idiot, but I love this boy. So thank you for saving him. And I know, I do believe that God does the same thing for us. Our God never changes. So whenever we pray for family, whenever we pray for friends, God does things that only when we get to heaven will we know.
Well, that's the part that's making me wonder. It's like my prayers, and it's one of the people that I'm praying for going to be like this, it's like, it may, seriously, it's like, oh my gosh.
Oh man. And I do think that we have a God who will only answer because it's the best thing for whatever reason. And I don't know, I'm a Garth Brooks fan, and one of my favorite songs that she sings is "Sometimes I Thank God for Unanswered Prayers." And basically his whole song is about how many times he begged God for something and God didn't give it to him. And then a few years later, he's like, man, I'm so glad you didn't, type of a thing. So,
Right.
Because even on this, he first asked if he could go to Zoar, right? Or to this little town. It wasn't even called Zoar yet. He just said, God, can I please go to Zoar? And God said, all right, if you want to. I ask you to go to the hills, right? And he's like, no, and for whatever reason, he said, no, I think there's a part of him that didn't want to leave the city life. There's a part of him that really was scared of, living in the mountains, so to speak. And eventually he left Zoar anyway. And I do believe we also have those moments. I know I have those moments with God where, I'm like, God, you got to give me this, or you have to let me do this. And God says, all right. And then after a while, you're like, okay, forget it. Your idea was better. And so this whole story seems to have, this whole chapter seems to have that theme. Any other comments, questions?
It kind of always amazes me how these people seem to have one sexual bout and they get pregnant. Like they're always ready to conceive, which in real life, as we know it, isn't that way all the time.
It's a good. It's a good. What is that again? I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know whether people of your generation are a lot more fertile than our generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People of your generation, 12 kids, sure. Not a problem. Nowadays, it's a little harder. People have, and obviously there's all kinds of reasons why that is. But I think back then, this whole thing of just fruitful and multiplying,
Must have
that
been.
was their thing.
Must have been.
Yeah. Well, I think this generation, your generation has had more access to birth control.
Mhm.
Our generation, the birth control was not always working.
Right. No, I get it. All right. If there's nothing else, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for joining us at our prayer and Bible study session as we journey through the Bible one chapter at a time. We realize that you might have some questions or comments on the things that we discussed today. And if you do, please feel free to fill out the form below. Also, if you would like to have your own Bible, please fill out the form below and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time at our prayer and Bible study session.